No one wants to buy cars.com. This thing has lost like 60% of its value just in the past month. It's actually a big missed opportunity here. So could you create a lending marketplace? No one's really been able to capture that lock-in effect and actually make a sticky network effect here between buyer and seller and facilitate that transaction from end to end. So cars.com is basically a marketplace to buy and sell a car. Now, the interesting thing with this industry is that there's actually multiple players in the buying and selling of cars. So there's cars.com in Platt. Car Gurus is also in Platt. Auto Trader, which is owned by Cox. So if you think about Cox with like TV stations and other media properties, so that's not in Platt. Edmunds, which is smaller, KBB, eBay. So eBay has eBay Auto, and then of course Craigslist. So there's not as much of a winner-take-all dynamic in this buying and selling of used cars. And I think there's a lot of interesting reasons as to why that is. One being that a lot of these transactions are actually taking place off the platform. So very much so these marketplaces are kind of like 1.0 marketplaces. So the way they're making money is not on GMV or having a take rate, or even facilitating the flow of money from buyer to seller through the platform. Instead, they're really just more of kind of an advertising marketplace of sorts, right? So if you're a seller, you basically pay for a package to be able to post a listing, kind of like you do on Craigslist. So you're not taking a take rate off of selling a $10,000 car. That would generally be cost prohibitive. So the margins are much smaller, and they don't have a true similar take rate model that you see with Amazon or with eBay or with a Farfetch, a lot of other product marketplaces. So as a result, you've seen this industry kind of fragment a lot because there's a lot of these kind of more so these marketplaces that you come to meet buyers and sellers and then you transact offline. So I haven't really seen anyone go much deeper into the actual payment side of things. And I think that's actually a big missed opportunity here. So could you create a lending marketplace? Could you let a lot of third-party lenders come in and provide credit to different types of buyers and actually try and close that loop, actually try and keep that transaction within your marketplace? I think that would substantially change the economics in the industry, and then actually try to capture what I would classify as platform leakage, which is basically just you come here to meet and then you leave. That's pretty big platform leakage. How could you now keep those transactions in the marketplace? Is there a payment platform angle here? Is there a lending marketplace angle here where you could actually help buyers get access to credit? I think that's what's needed. And basically what happened is, so the reason why cars.com stock has tanked, and I mean tanked, not good for the ETF, not helping out the curve here. Okay. There, look at this. Boom, like in the 25 range, and then now sub $10. This thing has lost like 60% of its value just in the past month. And there's an activist investor called Starwood or Starboard, I believe, that came in a little over a year ago and said, hey, we're going to put cars.com up for sale. We think that they're missing a lot of value and that they should sell themselves. Okay, so the stock rose when this activist investor came in, and then basically they took 9 months or so to then do an exploratory process, I think with JP Morgan, to see if any buyers would be interested in buying cars.com. Unfortunately, that didn't work out so well, and no one wants to buy cars.com, which then drove their stock price tanking, along with some other factors. Growth and other things weren't looking as well as they would have hoped, but not a good sign if no one is up to even buy you or even put in a bid. You would think, given the amount of fragmentation in this industry, right? At least 5 different material players here. Car Gurus, Public, Auto Trader, pretty big player. Edmunds, KBB, eBay, Craigslist not buying anyone, but still, handful of other players. You would think that one of them would want to consolidate, and then with a more consolidated and a stronger position, hopefully in a winner-take-all market, that an acquisition and M&A would make sense. Unfortunately, I think because the network effects here really haven't been trending towards winner take all for the reasons that I just went over, I think that's part of the reason why there really wasn't that interested of a buyer. No one's really been able to capture that lock-in effect and actually make a sticky network effect here between buyer and seller and facilitate that transaction from end to end. As a result of that, I can understand why buying cars.com didn't make any sense. So these would be some of the interesting, there's still platforms, but these are really like 1.0 marketplaces, right? These are kind of like a Craigslist, but just a better user experience, a more tailored user experience. And then they charge a little bit more for ads, but it's basically like these 1.0 type of marketplaces. And this is what's interesting. So IAC, Barry Diller understands this. Angie's List, Home Advisor, those are more 1.0 marketplaces as well. They don't really handle the money. The flow of money doesn't really go through the platform. They're more like referral engines, which is basically what these auto marketplaces are. When Angie's List and Home Advisor bought Handy, Handy's 2.0 marketplace, right? Handy does own the flow of money, right? Handy does have a much tighter level of accountability to the consumer, because now the consumer isn't picking the actual provider of services on Handy. It's actually the platform saying, here's someone good who's going to come clean your home or install your TV, and you're going to be happy. And you don't actually pick the actual service provider. Handy gives you the service provider, and then you pay a flat rate, hourly rate for their services. That's a very different transaction model. That's a much more evolved transaction model than these 1.0 marketplaces, where it's kind of whoever and whatever goes on the platform, and then it's completely up to the consumer to make that buying decision. So the 2.0 marketplaces are much harder, right? There's a much more level of ownership and accountability and responsibility put on the platform, which means that there's a lot more work, and like these auto marketplaces would really have to transform how they do what they do, right? If they were to handle payments or the flow of money or lending, that's a completely different model than what they have today. So we just haven't seen any of these players, I think, really take that full steam. In the way that I think is interesting to see what Barry Diller is doing with the home services roll-up. Now they have the 1.0 marketplaces and they have the 2.0 marketplaces. And I think putting the two of those things together is going to be very interesting to see how, if they can capture more concretely some of those network effects in the home services space. And maybe there's some lessons learned for this auto space as well. Hi, this is Alex Mozed. Thanks for joining us on Winner Take All. If you enjoyed the content today, which I bet you did, please comment, subscribe, and definitely message me on Twitter when we're doing live streams. Also, please note, all opinions expressed about stocks or public companies on the show are exactly that, opinions. This is not investment advice. Don't act on it. WisdomTree licensed Applico's Platform Insights data product to aid in the creation of the PLAT ETF. Thanks for joining us.